JaMarcus Shephard had a video that went viral. And the thing that's big from it, look, him going off ain't what the big deal is. That's coaches being coaches. If you think that's crazy, you're a snowflake, and we've gone way too far past it. Him going off on the guys wasn't the deal. It's what he said when he went off on them that you might want to pay a little bit of attention to that got your attention. And I'm going to read that and let you guys run with it. He said, I'm tired of sugarcoating shit for people in this room anymore. I'm not sugarcoating it. It's a telltale sign our two receivers with the most production in the room are the two taking notes right now. It's a telltale sign of how it is. Woo. It's, again, coach going off it in the strong words. It's what he said that was strong, Smoke. Marvin?
First of all, if you're going to go off, I'm going to need you to go off for real and not insult haircuts, because that ain't really damn going off. That's a real sensitive way to go off. I mean, so if you want to get my attention, I'm going to need you to really dig a little bit deeper into how you go off. But the fact that there's only two people taking notes in the room, that is a problem, because that means that they're the only two that are engaged, checked in. They're the only two that are ready to go compete. The only two that are ready to go win. The only two that are committed to the process.
Everybody Marvin, one second, real quick. I'm going to let you keep hold your thought. How many receivers did Bama actually use last year that was heavily involved in the pass game?
We had Williams, we had Bernard, and occasionally you'll see a few others catch a ball here and there, but it was just primarily those two.
Okay, keep going. Just pay attention to two.
So those were the only two engaged. But then it goes back to one thing for me, though. Were the others not engaged because they weren't getting the ball? Were the others not engaged because of the quarterback play and they felt like they never had a shot because it was always going to be a QB run? And is this why so many of them went to the portal? You gotta ask yourself, what's the underlying factor as to why a player is in a meeting room checked out? Because if a kid is truly involved and he's getting what he feels, hey, this is what I have earned, he's more likely to be engaged in the process.
Marvin, when I first got into coaching, I got a great quote from a guy named Bob Fellow. Bob Fellow and Coach Saban worked together. I think they were GAs with Coach Don James when they're in the younger days. Listen, the best coach that I've been around, one of the worst people on this planet Earth, but the wonderful coach. And if you wanted to learn how to coach as a young guy, that's the guy you wouldn't want to first start off with. He's going to make your life a miserable hell, but it helped me tremendously. And he always said this, Marvin, are you coaching it or allowing it? That's the only two ways to go about it if you're a coach. And this is it's not a knock on Coach Shep. It's really more of setting the tone. Your first day, just like any classroom setting, you have to have their non-negotiables. And for me, a non-negotiable is just like going to class. When you go into a meeting room is no different than Marvin, you, I, and Pettey sitting down in a classroom. So if you sit down in the classroom, you must have writing utensil and something to write on in order to take these notes, or else you're that daggone sharp. So I never allowed anyone to come in my meeting room without a notepad. I'm checking that off break. And I set that tone the first day. That goes in my coaching manual, which I hand out, right? Him going off, he's just being pissed. And again, this is his first year there. So we can put it on him, but this might have been happening before he got there. And he got a bunch of guys that he just inherited. Now, when you have a young guy that's your number one receiver, and the old guys feel like they're not a part of it, and there are times that I'm watching film that you had to tell Ryan Williams, he's young, where to line up. If you watch film enough, all 22, there's times that people are telling him what to do and how to do it. So if he's one of the two that's taking notes, those notes weren't pretty good. Those notes was average. But again, it's a young guy. Right? So you criticizing the players and making comments about haircuts, I've always wanted to address the play, not the player. I wanted to address the attention and the action, not the act. And everything I did was intentional towards what I wanted to get done as a coach. Now, that's just funny. I know Coach Shephard just trying to get the attention of those guys. Great sense of humor. The haircut part is just speech. But what he's trying to get done is he's trying to drive home that we need to be more intentional with our details. And if you want to get on this football field, there are certain things that you're doing that you're not doing it. Now, the dog part of it, that's on him now to go out recruit and develop the dog-like mentality of eating or getting ate in that receiver room.
But you know what, though, Smoke? I'll tell you something. The one thing I will never forget, my freshman year, we would go report. We would be there, 3-4 days before the upperclassmen. We working with the coaches. It's all cool, fun. And here come the upperclassmen. It had to have been my second or third meeting. I can't remember which one, where the full team was there. This was my freshman year. I'm not going to say the player's name, but he was in our meeting, halfway asleep, dozing off, not paying attention. All I heard was Jeff Riley. Damn it. He jumped up, turned them lights on, and I ain't going to tell you the rest of what he said. But it was from that moment forward that I knew.
You and I don't understand what Coach Rousey says half the daggone time. But
I knew from that moment forward, I better be in this meeting room, paying attention, taking notes, doing what the hell I need to do. Because that man, he made it clear. Don't bring your ass in here with no BS. We here for a reason. And I'm telling you, because you know that the first few days when it's just a freshman, they all nice and cuddly and fuzzy.
Acclimation days.
But when everybody got in there, man, it was like second, third meeting. All I heard was, damn it. He jumped up, hit that light switch. I said, ooh, yeah, I don't want no parts in that.
And you know what? Even when I was a coach, I made sure that I studied other really good coaches. Because most of the time, coaches are sitting in the back with the clicker and they're just going through it, or the cowboy, we call it. And you would just sit in the back. And then I started studying like real good professors and how to really interact with your pupils. How do you interact with your players? And I've never wanted to sit at my desk and just click away. I made it very interactive. I'd get guys getting up, walking around, getting on the board and doing different things. So at some point, if guys aren't getting it with notebooks and notepads, because some people don't understand how to take notes. Some people are kinetic learners, Marvin, a higher educated person. You might need to change up your teaching methods. Most receivers don't need to sit in the classroom. Some of the receivers or DBs or players need to go out and do walkthroughs. So my format was always come in, introduce what it is. It's a lesson plan. Go over what we're going to get done. I would show a professional doing it. I would show us doing it, and I'll show how we wanted to get done. I would get up. I would do a walkthrough, come back in, reteach it again, just to make sure that everyone in that classroom setting got the information that I wanted to get across, because everyone does not learn the same way.
It's not what you're teaching, and it's not how you're teaching it as much sometimes as what you're teaching as well. Because the one thing I can say about Coach Rousey, yeah, he taught us our defense, but there wasn't as much focus in the beginning on our defense as he put as much focus on the offensive sets, the personnel groupings, what comes out of this formation, what comes out. Then now, here's our defense. So in our defense, based upon what you just learned about offenses, how do the two relate to each other?
Yeah.
See, he took an approach to where it made sense.
Showed you the big picture.
So good. Yeah.
Gave you the big picture.
If you're just teaching route running and you ain't teaching none of the other stuff, or I mean, you have to teach the entire picture.
And like I said, Shep's done a good job when he was at the last place he was at. When he's at Washington, he got a first rounder, a second and a third rounder. So he understands how to develop receivers.
Yeah.
I know Bama fans don't want to hear this. The receiver room, talent-wise, not good enough. Not good enough. It's not like what we saw with Calvin and Coop and Ruggs, Judy, Smitty. That's not the same type of talent that's there right now. I mean, the number one guys there that's a difference maker is Ryan Williams. And Ryan's a baby. I mean, everybody else need to grow up and they need to get their level of play higher, and they need to play with more of an attitude, including Ryan Williams. There's times that you would have wanted to see him play with more of a bite in the ass attitude than getting slapped on the ass attitude. So, like I said, second year, we want to see some growth and more growth and production out of this receiver room.
Quick question for you guys, though. I think on one of the terms here, the no dogs in the room kind of points more towards, I think, an overlying feeling of the culture of today's football player. And Marvin, you made a great point. I would venture to guess that if you walked into a college film room, at some point, it wasn't if you got your ass chewed, it's when you got your ass chewed. So it was going to happen. But he's saying there's no dogs in the room. Were y'all ever questioned? Was the manhood ever questioned like that?
He's not really questioning their manhood. The term dog means just go-getters, self-motivators, ones that if you turn the lights out, close the door, which one of these guys are going to come out? And I'm not explaining the rules. It's get outside this door and figure it out. And I ain't talking about unlocking it and running out. I mean, lay everybody out in here and you're last one standing. But again, when I coached, and I thought I was a very good daggone DB coach. Check my record if you need to. Anybody that's been around me understands who I am as a coach. Marvin's been there with me. I got out of coaching because I wanted to, not because I had to. And I would never talk about what's not in my room. And whenever I said something about my room was a direct reflection of me. And I was a problem. So everybody out in my room that I ever coached, it's a problem too. And my attitude was a reflection, and it was poured directly on them. I spoke life into them. So you guys aren't dogs yet, but I ain't gonna say ain't no dogs in here. Because if there's no dogs in here, then it means that I don't know how to create dogs. And your room looks like you. When you walk out, you're the first one out. The guys behind you represent you. So if there's no dogs, you got to question yourself as well too. Are you giving them dog-like mentalities for them to be dogs? Dogs produce dogs.
Last quick question before we move on. And look, I think you kind of almost answered it. It's on you. You got to show up. You got to have the pen and paper. But is any of that disconnection because there was only 2 guys getting targeted? There were guys in that room that regardless of what they did, the third progression wasn't happening, so they could run a magical route and they weren't getting the ball. There was guys running wide open. They just didn't get seen. Does that cause a disconnect in that room?
It's always going to cause a disconnect when receivers are divas, right? Let's get this out. They're always going to have a problem. If life is great, they're a problem. If life is bad, it's a problem. If they run a route and they are covered by 3 people, a real good diva receiver, that's an alpha, is going to tell you, I'm open. Even when I'm covered, I'm open. Just throw the ball up. So them complaining about never getting the ball and being open, that's just a part of who they are. So I wouldn't put too much issue and too much flack or even want to or look into that. That's just who they are, man.
Great points on all that, guys. Always more preaching.